The Gundam Battle series is something I've touched on quite frequently in the past. It's a series by Art Inc. spanning 3 consoles, PSP, 3DS and PS Vita, which is composed of 7 games: Gundam Battle Tactics, Royale, Chronicle, Universe, Assault Survive, the 3D Battle, and Seed Battle Destiny, the last of which has been remastered on my preferred hardware of choice this year, which makes me a happy camper. But enough about that. Today's topic is Gundam the 3D Battle, released in 2011 on Nintendo's early 2010s handheld, the 3DS. At this point, I have all the mobile suits and pilots unlocked, with all the limit restrictions lifted. I'm pretty sure I've got all of them, since there wouldn't be any vacant places for it in the Save Select UI. Regardless, to catch up everybody who's not playing the home game in regards to this series, the Gundam Battle series is a bunch of third-person mecha shooters, which occupy this neat little Goldilocks zone between something more grounded, like Lost War Chronicles, and the more fast-paced entries like Armored Core 4, or the newer Gundam Versus games from PSP onwards. All of these feature a rather straightforward premise. You start with a bog standard ground suit, you shoot and slash your way through the various stages in the game, and as you play, more and more playable units become available. In fact, the sheer number of playable units has consistently been the biggest strength of the franchise. Even the less prominent machines like the Enact Aggrissa type, Kerberos Zaku, Green Diver's Ashmar, the Saku from Tony Takazaki's parody mangas, Hobby Hyzak, Dagger N, the Acguy and Zakuan's variants from episode 40 of Gundam Double Zeta can be played in these games, which is pretty neat. Considering all that, let's see how does the 3D battle measure up to its relatives. One thing you're gonna notice right from the get-go is the much cleaner looking UI composition, courtesy of the twin screen system, which in turn makes the main screen where the action happens much nicer to look at overall. You may also notice that the units look a bit smoother, courtesy of the added lighting and shaders. One rather entertaining thing that you might run into when emulating is a bit of a visual bug where a portion of a unit's shadow is turned into a square. Quick disclaimer. Yes, I'm reviewing the emulated version of this one since I do not have access to the original hardware, much less in my neck of the woods. Although even that is secondary to the simple fact that on the original hardware there were some performance issues, as documented on various Japanese sites, especially with things like the Guntank's BOP missiles causing slowdowns. Not to mention, it wouldn't be fair to the game to bring up the handheld console's ergonomics, as that is the fault of the 3DS, not the game itself, so to speak. Regardless, let's continue. The controls and the main mechanics themselves are the same as with the previous Gundam Battle entries, albeit without wingmen or their respective commands. The max capacity for SPH stacks is 6 instead of 10, and there have been some changes to the way damage works here. You see, when you got hit in the other games, you simply took damage. The 3D battle, however, distinguishes between 3 types of health. Green health, which is the type denoting the health you have left, red health, which pretty much serves as a visual indicator for how hard you got hit, and orange health. For the most part, when you take damage, a portion of this damage becomes orange health, which will replenish itself over time, assuming you don't get hit again in the meantime. At the same time, if you run out of green health, you will die. So while a potentially lethal hit may not completely take you out, you're still vulnerable until you recover. Getting hit by weapons that have so-called break properties, such as most cannons, bazookas and hand grenades, as well as charge shots and charge melee, will completely remove all the orange health for good, although the same goes for your enemies as well. This may seem like a system that could slow the combat down by a bit, and admittedly there are cases where it does. In fact, it does make some approaches less effective or viable, but for the most part it isn't by much. If you keep beating your foes to a pulp, they will die. There's no healing backup from that. Passively blocking ranged damage via shield positioning still works the same. Melee is also stronger this time around, likely due to how it interacts with the new damage system, making the practice of charge dashing into an enemy and spamming melee a very viable choice for a lot of fights. The SP attacks have been nerfed quite heavily, even losing their iframes, replacing it with double damage mitigation, and having generally worse accuracy, especially the ranged ones. Hyper mode here just buffs you up and turns all the damage you take into orange health, which blows, especially considering its cost. A lot of the missiles and launched grenades have vastly inferior firing accuracy than in the previous games too. The eye fields, meanwhile, have gotten a lot stronger, replacing the usual beam mitigating field, which can be depleted and slowly recharges over time, with a permanent one. Any beam attacks that hit these new eye fields are turned into orange health and have their damage reduced quite heavily, meaning that you can, hypothetically, just grab a Psycho Gundam Mach 2 with minimal tuning and take on squads of Big Zams and Psycho Gundams with your melee, emerging victorious with little to no damage to your own machine. On the upside, the movement feels the same as in, say, Battle Universe, which means all the space dashing, dodging, and so on is still on the table, fortunately. There's also the addition of universal tuning points, which were also featured in Seed Battle Destiny. You earn these alongside your unit-specific tuning points, and you can spend them anytime on a unit of your choice. As for the roster itself, I regret to inform you that it has been downsized, and rather drastically so. Most of the Mobile Suit Gundam, Zeta, and Char's counterattack units are there, albeit without the Big Ro, Zakrello, Browbro, Isaac Custom, Zaku Cannon in the EFF colors, Gates Kappa Custom Bound Dock, Residence Custom Gyaradoga, and the Hobby Isaac. Hamon's X Zeon doesn't even get campaign stages, and in terms of units, it only gets the Cubalate, the Gaza C, and the Gaza C Hamon Custom from the new Translation Trilogy. The Double Zeta's roster gets full-on left out, not even getting a guest unit like in Gundam Battle Chronicle. The MSV units, like the Gym Cannon, Perfect Zeong, High Mobility Zaku's, the Zaku Cannon, and so on, have been cut out completely, except for the G3 Gundam and the new Gundam DFF. OVAs, games, and side stories don't get almost anything, which means no Blue Destiny, no Stardust Memory, no Zeonic Front, Encounters in Space, Sentinel, Hathaway, nor Rise from the Ashes. The only OVA units the 3D Battle gets are on the Federation side in Gym Ground Type, the Gundam Ground Type, Gym Sniper 2, Gym Command, and Gym Command Space. Overall, a major step down from the 200 plus unit rosters of Battle Universe and Gundam Assault Survival. Even Seed Battle Destiny on the Vita, and now on PC, which resides in the 100 plus ballpark, had more units. Heck, to hammer the point home, Gundam Battle Tactics, which released in 2005, features more series in as far as the 0079 roster goes. Unique to the 3D Battle is the Gundam Unicorn and Sinanju as guest units, alongside their pilots, but without any designated Gundam Unicorn stages. The pilot roster has been decimated as well, featuring less playable pilots than Gundam Assault Survive, which notoriously made major cuts to the pilot lineup of its Battle Universe predecessor. There's also far less music tracks, both in-game and in the gallery, so you can't jam to the new Decides Battle theme no more. Oh, and there's no custom music either. I've seen one of the JP sites referring to the game's development as rushed, and honestly, I find it hard to disagree with that assessment. It feels like something that got thrown out to capitalize on Unicorn being a thing as opposed to making a full-fledged sequel. The models and levels themselves have been recycled from the PSP lineup of Gundam Battle entries and given some shaders. The water-related shaders, especially, are really good. Some effects have gotten a major overhaul too, which can be seen when using the Zeta's HML, hitting things with the Birdlime gun, or deploying the final barrier with any of the new Gundam variants. So even with a limited roster size, the few that are in the game at least look decent. Even so, the general game progression is retained, allowing you to go from fighting for your life in a hand-me-down GM, to owning the opposition so hard the nearby enemies will start bleeding the 13th. Considering the circumstances though, if you've tasted the endgames of Gundam Battle Chronicle or the later games, you'll end up getting blue-balled with a distinct expression of "Wait a minute, that's it?" chiseled onto your face. With all that said, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the two units that seemed to be the 3D Battle's major selling point at the time. The RX-0 Unicorn Gundam and the MSN-06S Sinanju. They're alright. For one, the Unicorn in this one feels very much like a late mid-game suit, with the Beam Magnum feeling like a slightly faster Hyper Mega Launcher from the Zeta Gundam. The beam rifle of the High New Gundam can output roughly 1.5 times the damage of a maxed out Beam Magnum in 2 quick, consecutive shots with a similar investment of tuning points, while sporting a much more respectable ammo pool. The Beam Magnum shots are also subject to getting mitigated by eye fields, just in case there wasn't enough salt poured into the wound. The Hyper Bazooka for it feels pretty solid and spammable, which is always a plus. You get your double beam Gatlings and head Vulcans too, and those are somewhat mediocre, especially the Vulcans. For melee, it gets fisticuffs, until you turn the NTD on, at which point it remembers it can use the beam Tauntaus too. Speaking of, the NTD itself is decent. Just like with the X Zaku, the S Gundam, and the Ifrit Kai, this system is implemented as a temporary buff state, activated by the special attack input. While you're in the destroy mode, you'll become pretty fast. The LEDs on the suit turn up, and you get an eye field, making you the smallest unit in the game to have such a feature, even if it only lasts until the SP gate runs out. Sinanju is pretty much in the same ballpark. Somewhat high-end beam rifle? Check. Bazooka that can rapid fire? Check. Grenade launcher to fill the third primary slot? Also check. It also gets the X-Toss off of the Bolinoak Saman. Given the range special attack nerfs, the special attack on this one looks flashy, but isn't as effective as you'd want it to be. Now, on the Acguy end of things, it's definitely doing a little better than Battle Alliance, since it does feature a playable MSMO for Acguy. Even so, my other favorites, such as the High-Gok, Zogok, the Gazome, and others are absent, in spite of their presence in the previous entries. As for the Acguy itself, it got nerfed into the ground, courtesy of the missiles and ranged special attacks being weakened quite heavily for no good reason.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Overall, I'm gonna rate it Acguy, but at what cost out of 10 on the Acguy scale. Which brings us to the final question on the topic of the 3D Battle question. Since it's no longer commercially available, only being playable by other means, the question becomes, is it worth my time instead of is it worth my time and money? The answer is, it depends. If you just want it for the Unicorn Gundam, you like the graphic tweaks, or you don't mind those aforementioned gameplay and roster changes, then sure, go for it. If you like the game series itself, I'd say you should give it a try, at least for the novelty. Otherwise, stick to your preferred Gundam Battle entries. It's still an alright game, albeit overshadowed by most of its relatives. Which is something I could say about Gundam Battle Tactics from 2005, but I digress. For somebody newer to the series, it might be a good start, since it's got more mechanical polish than Battle Tactics and Battle Royale, sporting a set of tutorials to boot. In this regard, the smaller lineup and the more forgiving damage system does play to the game's strength. It's got an adjustable difficulty thing too, so if you're new to the Gundam Battle series and you want a couple bites from the sample platter before tackling Battle Universe, Gundam Assault Survive, and Seed Battle Destiny, this could be a great pick. That or Battle Chronicle. Depends on your preference, really. As stated, if you've played other entries in this series, you're gonna miss some things. But comparisons aside, it's not a bad game per se, just different. Doesn't make it awful, but just doesn't completely sit right, since I know there's better ones with more stuff. Frankly, that sums up my unsolicited thoughts on Gundam the 3D Battle on the 3DS. If you enjoyed this one, feel free to like and subscribe, maybe toss a comment my way, since I'm curious what you think of either the game itself or my coverage thereof. Down in the description, you can find a proprietary Shirtlight server alongside ways to subsidize this channel in case that's up your alley. And until next time, this has been the Shirtlad, signing out.